Are you just going to be asking me a question and I'll answer, or?
We're live.
Okay.
Okay. So, all right. Well, welcome everybody if you're watching to Hmong Women of Today. I'm Linda, and I have here with me Mai See. Okay. So before I start asking Mai See questions about herself, about her career, I'm just going to briefly introduce her. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mai See. Okay.
Okay.
Mai See is from Fresno. She currently lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. She is an alumni of Brigham Young University. She got her Bachelor of Science in nursing. She works for the University of Utah in the Huntsman Cancer Institute. Am I right?
Correct.
Okay. And she currently works as a registered nurse on the medical or oncology unit.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, all right. Well, I'm super excited you're here with us. Thank you for being here. I hope we have viewers. I tried my best to get people, but if everyone's viewing, I'm super excited. So I'm going to give Mai See a chance to kind of introduce herself, and then we'll start asking her some questions. And then eventually, if any of our viewers have questions, they will ask you questions, okay?
Okay. All right.
All right. Like in my career, not in my career, I'm sorry. Mai See, go for it.
Okay, well, like Linda says, my name is Mai See. I am from Fresno, California. I'm born in Thailand, but raised in the States here. I've lived in California all my life. And then I decided to go to school in Idaho. So I attended BYU, Idaho for about 4 years. I graduated with Bachelor of Science in nursing. I worked in Idaho Falls, Idaho for about 2 years, and then I decided to move forward in the direction of oncology, working with cancer patients. So then I decided to apply for the Huntsman Cancer Institute. And the Huntsman Cancer Institute is one of the biggest cancer institute here in the, I would say, Western region. And so I've been currently living here in Salt Lake City for about a year now, working as a nurse going on.
I'm sorry, I think you were cutting out just a little bit, but I did hear you though, okay?
Okay.
I think I'm interested because I don't know, so maybe people don't know either. Can you explain a little bit about what oncology is?
So oncology, so in the medical world, we have learning medical term is like learning a whole new language. So basically oncology is a fancy word of saying cancer. So I am an oncology nurse, meaning I am a cancer nurse. Particularly only patient with cancer. That's pretty much what oncology means.
Okay, that's cool. What I'm going to ask you next is I'm going to ask you what inspired you to go into that particular field, okay?
Well, actually, I started off school not knowing what I wanted to do. I knew, and then, growing up, my dad always had diabetes, and so I always grew up as a caregiver. And then when I turned, I believe I was like 22, and I just decided that I wanted to try out for nursing. I didn't know if I'd like it or not. So then I went ahead and I applied for the nursing program at BYU, Idaho, and I attended. I got accepted, and I love just caring for people at their most vulnerable time. And then from there, how I became and being in the oncology, being really specific with cancer is when I started off my career as a nurse, we would take care of just regular medicine patients, and then we would have maybe 1 or 2 patients that were cancer, and we would give them chemotherapy. And I just noticed that with cancer patients, they were super great. They were super grateful. They were really nice, and decided that I want to be a part of that. And so that's why I decided that I want to go towards
Okay, that's super exciting because I have a sister who's also a nurse, but she's in a whole different field. And so cancer, the fact that you're in cancer, I think that's pretty cool. Now, I want to ask, I know that becoming a nurse is a really difficult path. I know that you guys have to take a lot of tests and, pretty much go through a lot of clinical hours. So I want you to, if you can, to describe an event during your entire career that was extremely significant. So a moment in which you learned the most from, so we can share that with everybody.
Yeah, I think nursing school is really brutal. But I remember very particularly, I was in my second semester in the nursing program, and during the second semester is when you learn the most. You learn all about the high stress. And I remember particularly during that time, my dad had passed away. And so it was a balance of like trying to figure out how to help my family, how to help myself, and how to keep my dreams going and not quit because I already got into the program. And I remember I had to skip 1 week of classes, and I was super worried because skipping 1 day of class of nursing is like skipping a week. So imagine skipping a week is like skipping a whole month of just assignments and work. And so I left for a week. I talked with my department, department chair. I left a week. I came back, and I came right back into the exam week. So in the nursing world, you have tests that you take, book tests, assignment tests, but then there's also hands-on tests. And I came back right into the middle of the hands-on test, and I was just expected to pick up from where I'm at and go right into it. And I remember I went into that clinical test, and I failed it. I failed it really bad. I had no idea what I was doing because I believe it was the high stress level I was in, and I did not do good. And at this point, my professors and the department chair all had to meet to determine to see if I'm still eligible to stay in this nursing program. Because at BYU Idaho, they maintain their status at 75%. With all your assignment, your tests, your grade, everything is above 75. And actually, I scored. I was really nervous now that they have decided that they were going to give me another chance. And redo this test. And so I was very grateful for that, and I study extra hard. I kind of just shut away the world really much, and I just study extra hard. I was still really stressed, but I went in, and the best thing about it is that I went in with the attitude that I will pass this exam. And with the attitude of my professor too, that she is not going to let me go from this program. And so with that attitude, I did, I wouldn't say I did my best score, but I did it above that 75. And so I was really grateful for that even though, it was a little bit hard with school and life, that I was still able to maintain and push through.
That's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, that's super cool. I mean, that's definitely tough, and the fact that they allow you to do it again, I think that's super neat. But just gears, we have a viewer who has a question for you. Okay. She asked, how do you see yourself contributing to the Hmong community with your specialization?
I think that the Hmong community, Hmong people in general, they lack a lot of education, especially the elderly people. And most of the patients that you see in the hospital are the elderly. And they're the one that don't speak English. They're the one that have to face with these terminal illness as they reach the older years of their life. And I would say 99% of the time, the elderly are afraid to enter the hospital or to even seek that treatment because not that they don't trust their physician, but they don't know what is going on or what is being said, or they're scared of their incapabilities. So I think that it's very important for me as a nurse that as I pursue my career and pursue my goal, that I always keep at the back of my mind that I am doing this so that I could come back and help my elderly folks as the Hmong people. And, help not only my family, but anybody that enters the hospital with English as a second language. And as a nurse, I'm taught that I'm an advocate for my patients. And regardless if they speak English or not, I will need to protect them. And so especially with the Hmong community, I do have a plan that as I reach my, the education I want, that I will be coming back to be able to help the Hmong community, to educate them. When you have, especially with cancer, that there's all of these preventative that you need to do, like breast checking, or, when you're having bloody stools and stuff, that you need to do these preventative care before it's too late, until you get diagnosed stage 4, stage 5, So that's what I think, how I can help out the Hmong community.
Okay, and I think what we're doing right now is actually a first step. Where we're speaking, you're sharing your experience, and I think kind of encourages the youth to probably, walk in the same path, and eventually we'll break that barrier of the language. I really hope so. But we have a few more questions from our guests, but before we ask the next question, I want to keep going with the interview. The next thing I want to ask you is, during your entire career, so when you were pursuing your education, or even as a nurse right now, what was the greatest challenge, or what is the greatest challenge right now?
I think right now, the greatest challenge that I face on a daily basis, I work 3 days out of the week, 12 hours. Every single day when I go to work, I have to have very hard and complicated conversation with people, with family members, about, do we withdraw care? Do we continue with care? How do you want your family member to die? I think these are the hardest conversations that you can have with somebody. And being a healthcare professional, they look at you with all of their hope. And so then I think the hardest thing for me is telling them that it's time to stop, and having those conversations about, it's important that we give these treatments, but at the same time, what about the quality of life for these people? So I think that's one of the most challenging things. Intubate them? Do we continue to do compression? Like, what do you want? And it's really hard to initiate those conversations, because it's kind of like looked as we should never have that. Because if we have those conversations, then it seems like as if we're withdrawing care, But I think that it's important to have those conversations when the patient is still alert and oriented, and still be able to tell you their wishes. So I think that's one of the hardest and challenging thing in my career, is having those very hard, complicated conversation with family members, with their loved ones, with the patient themselves.
Okay, and so I want to ask, I know you said that a lot of the time, like Hmong parents who don't speak English, they feel hesitant, to go get checked out or even talk to the physician. And so we have a guest who asks, how do we encourage them to make the visits? Or maybe how do you encourage them to make those visits? Because I know Hmong people, and it's going to be really hard to talk to them about those things, like you just mentioned about talking about, what to do.
Yeah, I think that is a challenge, and I think I'm still in the process of trying to figure out that. Even with my own parents, I think a lot of time it just takes a lot of educating them, telling them what are the resources that they have. Just because they have this kind of illness, maybe they're not feeling well, it doesn't mean that when you go to the hospital, they're going to cut you open. It just means that, okay, let's go see the doctor, see what he says, or see about maybe you just need this or need that. It doesn't mean that you need to make this big, huge jump. And then at the same time, I think that they're really scared, and they have a lot of fear. But because they're parents and they're older, they have to maintain this, like, I'm a strong person, So maybe even offering to them, I will go with you, and I will be with you every single way, and I will translate for you. That gives them a lot of security. Right here in Salt Lake City, we don't have a lot of Hmong people at all, maybe one or two, but we have a very highly population of Spanish speakers. And they come in with the same fear, and so we always make sure that I don't speak Spanish, but name, like, this is what we're doing, this is at this time, and if you're not feeling comfortable with it, I will go with you. you know.
Yeah.
That way it decreases their anxiety. And I think that will help with the Hmong population too, is that just letting them know, like, I not only tell you to go, but I will go with you. And I will do this with you. That would give them a lot more comfort and then decrease their anxiety.
Okay. So the next question that I have for you, it's asking you to talk about some valuable resources you know that it's going to benefit the youth or any other women who are actually in the process of becoming a nurse. Because I know that while doing this, there are a ton of steps we have to go through.
Yeah. So I would say the number one thing is never give up. Giving up should never be an option. Like, take that out of your life completely. It doesn't matter if it's for school, for life. Giving up is not an option for me, and have that attitude. I think, and then when you go into it, make sure you know all your resources. One person might say you can't do this, but then the other person might say, oh no, I think there's a way through it. You know, so make sure that you know all your resources, and just don't believe, like, just because one person says you can't doesn't mean that, you know what I mean? Doesn't mean that there's no way. So always try to do your homework, pretty much. Do your homework, try to seek out all of your resources available to you, and then go from there. I think that's how, as, you know, as a minority, as a Hmong woman, we're taught to like, no, you know what I mean? No, it's for us. But I think, believe it's just, I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to find what are the other options. Maybe this option might not work, but let's say what the other options I have, what other resources I have. I would honestly say, though, being a nurse is not easy.
I would
agree. It pays well. Yeah, it pays really well. Earning that paycheck is really nice, but if you have to do 12 hours, 3 days a week of something you don't like to do, is going to be really miserable. So I would say you have to really love it to do it. I think nursing is a job that you have to have passion for, to be able to put up with the things you put up with and the patients you deal with the trauma you deal with. So I think that maybe with the younger youth that are looking into being a nurse, I will highly recommend them maybe just take, you know, during the summer or whenever they have time, go and shadow a nurse, or go and shadow a clinic, what they do on a daily basis, to really see if they like to do that. I think nurse is portrayed in the media as somebody that just wear nice scrubs and gives medication. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of backstage work behind it, and you take a lot of criticism from physicians. You work with the physicians. You work with a lot of other medical staff, and so I will recommend that with the young youth that are interested in the nursing world, I will highly recommend them to go and shadow and volunteer, like put their foot in the water to see how they like it.
That's not a bad idea, right? To really see if that's what they really want to do. Because like you said, in the media, they're portrayed as somebody who is, you know, in pretty scrubs and pretty hair. They don't show all the scenes behind it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question I'm going to ask is, or before we move on to our viewers' questions, because I have a few more for you, I just want to ask one more thing, and that is for you to describe what it means to you to be a Hmong woman, and what kind of advice will you give other women?
You know, I love being Hmong, even though I'm living in a state that's just full of, you know, white people, lack of term, white people, you know. But I would highly recommend to all the youth, regardless if you're women or men, always remember your roots and always remember the things you've been taught. I work with a lot of other nationality. I don't even work with a Hmong person because of the area I live in. Wow. But I am always really, really proud to tell people, oh, I am Hmong and this is who I am, and share your cultures. And then being a Hmong woman means a lot because I've always been taught by my dad that even though you are a girl, you need to be as good as your brothers. You need to be as educated. You need to be as ambitious as them. And so having that, you know, support from my dad has really just helped me be determined that even though I'm a woman, I can be as good as the men. And I'm not going to trump over them, but I can be right up to them. And in that way that I can help not only build a Hmong community, but build my own family. And so being a Hmong woman, we are suppressed a lot, I would say. Growing up, we are suppressed a lot and telling us what we should do or shouldn't do, what we ought to do, what our duties are. But always remember, yes, as a Hmong woman, we have duties to fulfill. Like we gotta cook and clean. We gotta care for the younger ones. We have to nurture our children. We have all of that responsibility. But do not use that as an excuse or as a crutch to not be able to reach your dream. I think being able to be a woman and fulfill all those duties and also reach your goal makes you so much more powerful and so much more influential to your children, to your family members, and also it increases your capacity to be able to help the Hmong community.
I definitely agree. I can definitely relate to everything you just said about trying to fulfill your Hmong woman duty and then still trying to achieve your goal. So that's a great response. Let's see. We're going to move to our viewers' response or questions.
Okay.
One of the questions asks, during your journey, how did you balance school, work, and family or friends? Did you have to remove one to achieve your goals?
Actually, it's really hard because nursing is very demanding. I remember in nursing school, I went to school Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, had class from 7 till 3, and then I went to work right afterward. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would spend 12 hours doing my clinical hours. So I really had no time for friends and family, but you have to make that time. You have to step away from work to be able to maintain your sanity. So I think it takes a lot of work to balance. So how I did it was I told myself, yes, Monday through Friday is when I do all my schoolwork, all my stuff for school. But Saturday is when I can spend time in the morning or in the evening with my family and friends, and then maybe study a little bit in the afternoon, or maybe study a little bit in the morning if I know I'm going out with them at nighttime. And then on Sunday, I'm LDS, so on Sunday I choose not to do any schoolwork. I just say whatever is done is done. And on Sunday, I'm going to spend it with my family and my friends and be able to worship my Heavenly Father in that way. And that's how I maintain my balance. However, though, it's not always that way. Some weeks is a little bit more crazy than other, but you'll just have to adjust. And then let's say throughout the week, like Monday through Friday, when I have a friend that is in need, I never hesitate though. I always set aside, I'm like, okay, I know this is very important to me, but this somebody needs help. So I will set aside maybe a couple hours, and then I just need to push myself twice as hard when I come back. So it's just, I would say self-discipline.
Okay.
And also time management and really understanding what is my priority. Let's say I have friends that always invite me to go dancing or go hang out, especially on the weekends. And I say, okay, what time are we going? If we're going in the evening, I spend my morning studying. Let's say if let's say we do something in the morning, I said, okay, I can do with you, but this time is when I need to study for a little bit, and they understand that how brutal nursing school is. And so they work with you. However, there will be those family members and those friends that are not understanding. And they do demand, they do feel like you're replacing them. I don't know how to, sometimes you try to explain as much as you can, but they still don't understand. So you just work with them. When you can do it, you do it. When you can't do it, you can't do it. And just understanding your priority and doing some self-discipline. Sometimes you can't go to parties. It sucks. But sometimes the thing is, you have to have, what's my end goal? Am I trying to, be a nurse, or am I trying to be a party person? You know what I mean?
That makes me feel guilty because my sister, who's also doing nursing, finishing up her nursing, she's always like, I gotta study, I can't do it. And I go home saying that, you know what, she doesn't ever want to spend time with us. She sucks. So that makes me feel bad. But I'll try to understand her some more. There's another question, and I think this question is probably coming from, I'm thinking, maybe from someone who probably is in the in her career of becoming a nurse. Okay, so the question she's asking you is, what are a few self regimen you do for yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed? So I'm guessing she's asking, what are some things you practice as self-care?
I think that for me, when I'm at work, I'm at work. When I'm off of work, I have to clock out, literally clock out of, and it's a little bit hard being a nurse because you do constantly think about your patients. You think about the people you care for that day. But I think that the way I handle my overwhelmness or my stress is when I'm at work, I'm 100% there. But when I'm off work, though, when I clock out, I'm clock out. I don't think about things at work. I don't worry. Even though if there's a patient that I'm kind of worried about their situation, their condition, I will let the next nurse know, please watch for this or monitor this. And I will be back tonight, but and when you come home, leave everything at work. And then when you go back, you can pick it right back up. It's the same thing as not taking your personal life at home to work.
Yes.
Because in that way, it's not fair for your coworkers, for your directors, for your patients, because then you're not really there for them.
You're right.
So
You're right.
It's learning to separate that, like clocking in, being 100% there, and clocking out is leaving everything there and not bring that home with you and not carry that. However, it is harder said than done. There are times where some patients do make a huge impact in our life, so we constantly carry that. But it's just learning how to really let go when you come home.
I agree with you again, because I'm not a nurse, but I'm a teacher. And so same thing, when life gets hard, I got to separate that from my career, because then my students, they feed off my energy. So if I were to express, how angry I am, how sad or how overwhelmed I am, my students, they immediately shut down as well. So I totally agree with you. And I think that's absolutely good, because I don't want to take home all my, work to home as well, because my kids are at home waiting for me too. So I love that. That's really nice. It doesn't look like we have any more questions. We'll see if they come through. But as we're waiting, is there anything else you would like to say to all our viewers or future viewers?
I would say this, though. A lot of people ask me, like, how did I get through it? And how am I able to be where I'm at right now? I think that I always tell my siblings, my friends, my families, I always tell them, like, you just have to be positive and tell yourself that you will pass, and tell yourself, have that attitude that I will be this and I will be that. I struggle a lot through having English as my second language.
Yes.
That's always a struggle, and I always feel like I have to study twice as hard. I tell myself all the time when I'm feeling a little bit down, I just said, no, I'm going to be as good as my classmate right here. And I'm going to make it as competitive as it is to hire her than it is to hire me, And I'm going to be right up there with them. And not in a way to put them down, but in a way to help me feel that I can do it. Never, ever go into anything with the attitude of, I know I'm going to fail already. Because you kind of self-fulfill that prophecy. Like if you're taking a hard class, I see this a lot of time. I see this with my younger brothers. They register for this really hard, challenging, let's say biology class, and they get, oh man, I'm going to fail this test, or I'm going to fail this semester. And I tell them, you just watch, you will fail. With that attitude, you will, But you have to go, even though it's hard and challenging, you have to go in thinking, I will do it. This is a piece of cake. I will be able to master this.
Yep.
And sometimes you have to be yourself's best friend. And when you're feeling down, you have to say, come on, you can do this. Kind of pep talk yourself into. And I would say that that's one thing that I would highly recommend to the youth as they are growing up and attending colleges and school and finding what they want to do. Another thing is being determined.
Yes.
When you say you're in, you're in.
Yes.
Give it your 100%. Don't go in saying, I want to be this, but then 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like you're not. And I think that's one thing where the Hmong parents have a hard time trusting us as youth, as the younger people, because they say like they can't rely on us because we're not really gonna go or gonna come. It's like wishy-washy. So if you say that I want to become this, put both feet in the water, dive in, and if it comes that, maybe this is not what I do, then you can step out because you already gave it your all, but always be determined. I feel that a lot of youth, especially Hmong youth, have that fear where they go in and they want to be really bad, but they're not really determined. They're 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and I think that's what really hinders them from really accomplishing their dreams and their goals. So I would say those are the two things that I would really encourage the young youth to really take seriously.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, it looks like our time is almost up. I think I feel really inspired and really happy to learn about your story. I hope our viewers felt the same way. I really do. I know we don't have a lot of time, but if we do, I wish we would be able to tell them, from bottom up, what step A is all the way to step Z. But I'm really hoping that if they have further questions, they can always reach out to me or to you.
Yeah, and I'm more than willing to give my phone number and to give my email address to them. And if you have any further questions, you're more than welcome to call me or email me, and I would do my very best to help you navigate your way through if you want to go into the nursing world. If you want to maybe navigate through, you don't know what you want to do yet, I can maybe help answer those questions also and maybe inspire you in a way that you would know what you want to do. But I'm more than willing to, talk to the youth and kind of help them out. I think it's a really scary thing, trying to figure out what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's the whole purpose of this, so that we can help them, because we definitely struggled. We really did. But I want to say thank you so much, Mai See, for joining us today, and thank you for our viewers. I'm hoping that we will see everyone again eventually. So thank you so much, Mai See, for joining us.
Thank you so much, Linda. You guys have a good day.
You too. Bye.